This is the big one. It happened. Donald passed the big bill.
We are in this. We are leaning on this. And without the tax cut that was put into place by President Trump in his first term, if that's allowed to expire today, if this bill does not pass.
So J.D. Vance went in and cast the deciding vote for the bill. It was 50-50, and he voted for it. I have to admit, though, if he didn't vote for it, and he voted against it, that would have been crazy content, right? Would have been crazy.
Taxes for 68% of working Americans.
Right, and the biggest tax hikes would be for the lower household income. So, and also the pro-growth aspect of this, right? We want to grow this nation. We want to grow the economy, and taxes are a central part of that, particularly for corporations.
Hold the vice president. Breaking the tie right now, which means they had some no votes from the Republicans. This bill, the big, beautiful bill, has passed because the vice president of the United States, J.D. Vance, has come to the Hill more than once thinking that he would do this. And when he showed up this morning, they were right. He would be needed. He has done it. Let's listen and see if there is any audio that we can take in.
Okay. Pursuant to the order.
Man, fuck you, dude. Come on, this isn't fair.
4 February 29, 1960.
1960? What year? What the fuck?
The hour of 12 noon having arrived, the Senate having been in continuous session since yesterday, the Senate will suspend for a prayer by the Senate chaplain.
The Senate okay. All right. You guys are dooming to. Is this good or bad?
Let us pray.
It's too much of both. I'm glad that they're not restricting AI. Like, one of the biggest W's of the bill that I think is probably one of the biggest L's that a lot of other people think is the no restrictions on AI for 10 years. So companies can develop AI with no restrictions at all and no ethical concerns. And I think this is going to allow us to maintain competitive edge against China and other industries and countries that would develop AI and outpace us. It's a huge W.
Eternal, ever-blessed God.
You think that's good? Yeah, absolutely.
Help our senators to walk on your path for the glory of your name. Help them to walk with humility.
It's the same thing as like nuclear weapon, right? I mean, like if everybody's trying to build a nuclear weapon, wouldn't you want to be the person that has it first?
That they will
That's just the way I see it. That's where I'm
at.
That's what I think.
Servants of the people. Mm-hmm. Help them to walk with forgiveness so that they will forgive as they desire to be forgiven. Help them to walk with courage so that nothing will deflect them from the way.
We don't need to watch this.
Move ahead.
Okay, now what? The guy do that Jesus shit. Microsoft rolled off software yesterday as 85% more accurate than doctors in diagnosing complex health conditions. Yeah, big surprise. AI is actually super useful, and the only thing that it's not the only use for AI is not replacing furry artists. Of course.
And with that, we are watching now. The big, beautiful bill has passed on the vote, breaking the tie of the Vice President of the United States. And Charles, you were talking about the tax portion of this.
51 to
what
50.
good does this do outside of saving what the president put into place with tax cuts that were monumental, really, for so many Americans across the country? What does this allow him to do going forward?
This is the crux of it all, really, to be quite honest. It's the growth effect, the multiplier effect of businesses keeping more.
Keep in mind, this bill is over 1,000 pages. I heard it got amended to like 984. So, like, if somebody's asking what is this bill, I can think of probably at least 90 people that don't know what this bill is.
And being able to invest that into future products and being able to invest that into employees.
Nobody knows. It's a loot box.
That's what the foundation of the economy is. And Listen, obviously, it's one thing when you say things on the campaign trail and when you hope for things on the campaign trail. As we can see, this thing is very contentious. Just your conversation with Chip Roy shows that when it gets back to the House, there's going to be some more, fisticuffs or another Donnybrook, so to speak. But, President Trump put out a post yesterday talking about the growth aspect of this. And I think that's what he's focused on more than anything else. Make the pie bigger. Make the economic pie huge so that everyone can get a chance at an opportunity. Because it's one thing to save taxes as a lower income home. It's another thing to have have more prosperity, to grow your job, to grow your business, to have a business, to start a business. And I think that's what the president is aiming for.
Look, what you were talking about, and I want to get into it, Kennedy.
You shouldn't be able to cram so much shit into a bill. No, I agree with you. I think it's a huge problem. I do. I think it's a massive, massive game mechanic mistake.
At the very end of the Faulkner Focus, Representative Chip Roy and I were watching the lead up, the last few seconds of that final vote, and he said that the cuts that were put in place to make this deal, there are Republicans who, and I would assume he includes himself, are not happy about, and he's hoping that some of that, as Charles has just told us, can be, kind of put back in, I guess, by the House. But the cut down on Green New Deal, and they cut some of that out to make a deal today. The giveaways, this is Chip Roy, representative from Texas, talking. The giveaways furthering the Medicaid scam of, this idea that they're not just trying to get out fraud, but they want to just give money away, for Senator Murkowski of Alaska to vote yes for this. What are your thoughts on it?
So every bill adds in a lot of additional junk to go through them. It's not a new thing. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, that's the entire issue right there. Yeah, that you got it. Yeah.
A lot of that was offsets from Obamacare. So that was expanding Medicaid for states like Alaska, instead of really reforming the system. And it is, the way they're doing it, it's still a Band-Aid. It's still a stopgap. And I think they really have to focus more of their attention on these meaningful reforms going forward, because that shouldn't be the thing that kills this bill. That shouldn't be the thing that kills tax cuts.
If you don't want one thing to be the thing that kills the bill, then maybe you should look at having a bill that has like 50 different provisions for 100 different things in it. Like maybe just at a very core level, this is a flawed concept. And I think this is the crux of the, I think, breakdown, because like Elon Musk is mad at Donald Trump again, and this is like it's on again. The reason why is that I think Elon Musk is looking at this from I think that they're both right, basically, and let me explain why. I think Trump's right to go after this and try to achieve this goal by using a pragmatic means, but I also think Elon is right that the fact that this is even happening in the first place is a problem fundamentally, right? So it's like you have the pragmatic versus idealistic perspective.
But it also opens a very interesting fissure within the party, because you have the constitutionalists like Chip Roy and the Freedom Caucus in the House, and then you have the moderates in the Senate, like Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, who's up for re-election. And so they're going to push for the more moderate or liberal aspects of this bill that expand government and expand spending, which is a recipe for disaster when you're trying to...
Medicaid's also for veterans, you dunce? Oh, you're going to call me stupid because I just didn't know that? I'm just going to ban you. I thought it was just for people that were broke. I don't know why, you come into my stream and you insult me or rude to me or something like that. I don't know why you would think that I wouldn't ban you for that. Why would I allow you? You just a name, right? Why would I let somebody disrespect me or be rude to me?
Cut taxes. If you're going to grow the economy, as Charles says, you also have to cut spending. And that's the issue that people like Rand Paul have with the bill.
Kennedy, do you think that it really came as close enough as Chip Roy, representative from Texas, was laying out, that if they would promise to give Lisa Murkowski the money that she wanted, could Democrats have tanked this in any way?
There's no way they could have.
I'm baffled because we're at a tie, so clearly it was close.
They didn't need Democrats to tank this.
They did.
The Republicans did it all on their own because they thought the more comfortable margin would be in the Senate. Because, mathematically, in terms of the ratio of Republican votes, you have more of them in the Senate, and they lost 3 of them. So it's even tighter in the House. So how do you go back with this to the House and come up with a compromise? Because, you know, these are some pretty big issues. This is still a pretty big gulf that they have to tightrope in order to pass this bill and have it signed.
Well, and the other reason, Jerry, that they thought it might do better or easier, might be an easier road in the Senate was because the Senate had promised all the spending cuts and all those things. But much of that, not much, but some of that got shaved to the point where Congressman Roy is talking about maybe they're not all comfortable with it, the way it's cut down now.
Yeah, that's right. So now it has to go back to the House. The House has to vote, obviously. And the question is, how does that...
If this bill gets passed, it's going to be massive for Trump. I do think so. Because, like, I think Trump has had a lot of really, really big wins, especially recently. And if this gets passed, it's going to be... Like, I would say that, like, his mandate as a president has been building up momentum. And I feel like usually that doesn't happen. Usually after a president takes over, their approval and support decreases. And I would say that Trump's has only increased, especially recently.
Happen? Does it happen? I think there's a very good chance that it happens, obviously. But let me just talk for a second about some of this stuff in this bill that is going to help middle class, because there's been a lot of disinformation about this. And the disinformation is basically that it helps Trump's billionaire friends. Yeah. Nothing could be further from the truth. Remember, no tax on tips, lower taxes on Social Security. Car loans on American cars, those will be deductible. So you're seeing a lot of things in here for regular Americans, going to help regular Americans, and nothing will help them more than Donald Trump's original tax cuts, right? They really help the middle class. It helps the lower class. So this is...
I just, like, my take on this whole thing is that I actually kind of agree more with Elon that this is a very flawed system, and this system needs to be... It needs to be reimagined. It doesn't make sense, and it's not logical that we have so many completely unrelated things that are included in the same policy decision. And I don't think that ultimately it serves the American people's best interests that AI regulations are being included inside of Medicaid funding. I think these are, like, you know, again, it's like going to McDonald's, and if you get a Happy Meal, you also get a like a stuffed animal. I guess actually, well, that one makes sense. You get a free sofa with it. And if you get an upsized drink, you can also get a, you know, a box of nails. Like, it's just very unrelated. And so do you want this bill to pass? I don't really care whether it passes or not. That's really what my opinion is. I think there's just been so much conflicting information about it that I don't want to give, like, I never read this bill. I'm one of the people that didn't read it. Why would I read it? Like, I mean, if the people that are voting on it aren't reading it, why the fuck would I? And so I don't know whether it's a good idea or not. I mean, there's certain things that I've read in it that I think are good. Other things, not so much. It's really just that simple. You should? Why? I can't control the outcome for this at all. And so that's it. Yeah, I like it and I hate parts. Yeah, exactly. And I think that we can all pretty much agree that regardless of where you stand, something in this bill you will probably assume is problematic and bad. And I think that, again, the fundamental system of voting on these things as these massive blocks is just a bad system fundamentally. I can understand why Trump approaches it that way, because it's easier to do certain things and, you know, like, it's more politically effective or efficient. But at the same time, is this in the best interest of the American people in the long term? I think the answer to that is absolutely not.
All good news.
Not the bill itself, but the system in which bills like this become passed.
To say that the CBO has been no help here, because the CBO says that there's going to be $3.3 trillion more in deficits over the next 10 years because of this bill. They've got it wrong, and they've got it wrong for exactly the reasons we've been talking about. You brought this up earlier, that the economy is going to grow under this bill, right? It's going to get bigger. That's going to spend off more tax revenue and make our country wealthier.
Well, just real quick to that point, the CBO on the original tax cut bill said it would cut add cut 1.5 trillion, and instead it added 1.5 trillion. It would add 1.5 trillion.
This is the problem. Is like the media. This is. I don't think people understand how bad this problem is. That you just have such blatant and such just flat out false information. People just say shit that isn't even true. Straight up. Yeah, that was it.
It cut 1.5 trillion out. So in other words, they were a million times wrong, $3 trillion off. So it's really awful with the CBO. Of course, they don't add tariff.
My uncle depends on EBT and SNAP for food. They're going to cut his benefits because of this and take away some of his Social Security benefits. I don't even know if that's true, because I have one group of people saying we're not cutting Social Security, the other group saying that they are. I don't know what's true, what's not. It's crazy to me that this is even a conversation. It is. It's nuts. Nobody's Social Security is getting touched. Yeah, and I heard that I've even heard that they're making it to where you don't even have to pay taxes on Social Security anymore. So it's just like
a whole lot of other things.
Like, what's real? I don't even know.
But a lot of these folks in D.C., really seem beholden to it, and it's easy to game. So that always boggles my mind. I feel like it's more for public consumption than it is for actually being in a realistic world.
Yeah, Emily, presidents want that deliverable. They want that initial vision. The president got it already this morning. He's talked all in deep about the numbers, the 2,700 gang members that have been picked up in short order by his administration, illegal gang members, suspected gang members who were here as illegal aliens. So he's having a deliverable there. This conceivably could lead us to another one.
That's right. I spoke with border czar Tom Homan yesterday, interviewing him on Fox Across America when I subbed in for Jimmy. And he shared that the colossal just impact that we inherited from the Biden administration in the way of illegal immigration, he said, will take a decade to actually clean up and address. And
I think that she's right about that. And I think that all of the illegal immigrants and everything in the country, I think that they are... I think it's a problem that, by the nature of what it is very hard to define how big it is. Yeah, it's only knocking off any illegals who don't have any Social Security numbers or legal papers. Well, this is what my opinion is. If somebody is in the country illegally, as far as I know, I don't know how the fuck they're getting benefits in the first place. But if they are getting benefits in any way, shape, or form, then I think they should be completely cut. Like, literally down to zero. Instantaneously, and deported also instantaneously. That's it.
Talked about the brave and efficacious work of ICE agents.
Because they aren't. I don't think that they are either in a lot of cases. But like I'm saying, if they aren't, then I think that we're in agreement, right? Like, I think everybody can agree that, like, illegal immigrants shouldn't be getting our tax money. So, like, if we're in agreement, it shouldn't matter whether they are or not. The end result is that you should be on the same page thinking-wise, right?
Just right now, but the reality is that we have to go internally and clean house. And so what this OB3 does in the way of resources for that and allocation is really paramount, because I think right now we've successfully obviously stopped the floodgates at the border. But the reality is that on the interior front, there's a lot that we don't know. And what we do know is that we need resources for that. And I also spoke with Congressman Rick Crawford from Arkansas, and he talked about the agricultural communities. He said those are the heart and soul of rural America. And when we talk about these tax cuts, and I speak with everyone, what is the best for your constituents? What do your people need? It's all the same. That's the entire point, that the massive impact it would have had if this didn't pass or doesn't pass the House.
Right. Illegal immigrants get Medicaid through state funds, since not federal, since that's illegal. I think any state that's funding any illegal immigrants with Medicaid should be immediately defunded by the federal government. Period. If you are reallocating people's tax money to illegal aliens, I think that the federal government should pull every lever possible to completely disable your entire functionality. So California should be defunded. If it was up to me, I would do that. You're fighting ghosts? Nobody's doing that? Good. Okay, well then I guess I won't have to do it. Yeah, simple. I feel like if I'm fighting ghosts and nobody's actually doing this, then why would it be a problem if I'm saying that this is what should happen? It's pretty simple, right? If it's not happening, then why aren't we in agreement?
It will be catastrophic and devastating. Child tax credit, families over 68%, small businesses, millions of them. So every single person affected. And the senators Mullen and Tuberville from Alabama and Oklahoma echoed the same. So it may not be perfect, but the reality is it would be devastating if it didn't pass.
Just talking about it plainly, as we often do here, Emily, on the couch, if you can imagine struggling under the high inflation of at 9.1% under Joe Biden in the last 4 years.
I think this is one of the components that a lot of people don't realize is that ever since from 2018 to now, I feel like the prices on nearly everything have gone up by 50%. And inflation is like a soft tax that you don't really see, but it's all around you. And yeah, doubled or tripled in a lot of cases, right? Because of Trump. I'm not going to say it's because of anybody. It doesn't really matter who it's because of. I'm just saying this is what's happening. Is that problem is actually a lot more direct in people's minds. So like it's quadruple in some cases. Yeah. Like people are paying these insane amounts of money just to have the exact same thing that they had less than 10 years ago now. And I think that these massive price increases are one of the biggest pain points that average Americans have. And I think this is probably happening all across the world. Like if those of you guys that are like in Europe or somewhere else, is this something that you've also experienced in like your country too?
If you can imagine price setting going to higher rates and never coming back down. I mean, the inflation has come down precipitously, as President Trump had promised.
It's everywhere, yeah.
But the government doesn't set the prices. We're a capitalistic nation. So, you know, those prices are still high. So to take away people's ability to pay for those prices that they've had to be buckled under and struggled under for 4 years with less money to pay for them if this doesn't pass the House, that's inconceivable. That would be punishment on punishment.
My dad he's almost 80. And COVID almost totally destroyed our small family farm and agricultural community, and it was made all the
COVID culled a lot of small businesses. Like it did. Like I know here in Austin, there's many local small businesses, and a number of them were damaged by COVID.
Because it was in a blue area in Oregon. And the reality is now does everything himself for all of that reason. The cost cutting that we have to endure because of the suffocation from federal regulations and the states piling in. You are right. You cannot afford it. We cannot afford to continue that.
All right, we're covering
I think what
it.
they need to do is need to create incentives for these companies to make less profit and stop trying to exclusively maximize shareholder value in everything by completely extracting as much money out of citizens as possible. The fact is that I don't agree with price fixing. I don't think that's really true. But a lot of these corporations and companies enjoy a tremendous amount of benefits and opportunities and different privileges. And I think the government should use those privileges as a carrot and as a stick in order to make sure that these businesses are operating in a way that's in the best interest of the public. Because I think if a business is not operating in the best interest of the public, why does it exist? It doesn't make sense to me.
So now the bill, the big, beautiful bill, goes to the U.S. House.
Oh, boy.
Hey, everyone.
Oh, boy.
Mr.
Oh,
President.
boy. Yeah, and this is J.D. Vance.
All right, to this Fox News alert, Vice President J.D. Vance has arrived on Capitol Hill as the Senate continues its vote-a-rama on Trump's big, beautiful bill, which has now passed 20 hours.
A lot of amendments out there. Senior national correspondent Aisha Hasni joins us live from Capitol Hill. Aisha.
Hey there, good morning to you. So this has now become probably the longest vote-a-rama in recent history. We're entering about 21 hours now of nonstop voting on amendments, and things are not looking good at this hour. Senate Majority Leader John Thune does not currently have the votes to pass President Trump's big, beautiful bill, although the White House has now sent in some reinforcements.
They sent them in, boys.
They sent in Vice President J.D. Vance, who just arrived here on Capitol Hill about 30 minutes ago or so, 15 minutes ago. And he's here not so much as the tie-breaking vote, you guys. Probably more likely he's here to try to negotiate, use relationships
he was
with these
the tie-breaking vote.
To try to bring them across the finish line. I am told right now they are working and focused on Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski.
Send in the couch fucker.
She did vote yes to open the debate yesterday for this bill, but currently she is not in the yes column, and that's because overnight an amendment to give Alaska a break on those Medicaid cuts that failed to pass. So this was something the parliamentarian decided did not meet the reconciliation rules to pass at a 51 vote threshold. So
ultimately it did pass. They passed it, and it has to go to the House of Representatives. But then after that, the big, beautiful bill will happen.
Are talking with Lisa Murkowski now to figure out perhaps how to reword the language here, maybe try it again with the parliamentarian, or maybe get her to forego this and go ahead and vote for this bill. The other person we're watching is Susan Collins.
Yeah, I get it.
Also not in the yes column
How many
yet.
steps
She's
are there?
continuously said that she's had concerns about the Medicaid reforms in this package. And then you have two hard no's, of course, Rand Paul and Tom Tillis. Those are not changing. However, we have heard in the overnight hours that there were some efforts to try to flip Rand Paul by reducing the debt ceiling increase. That was something that he was pretty unhappy about, the debt ceiling being attached to this big, beautiful bill. At the same time, Republicans and Democrats...
I don't know why they get so focused on the debt ceiling when what the real problem is the debt trajectory. Even if you lower what the ceiling is, you're still going to approach the ceiling. So the solution really needs to be operating at a positive rather than operating at a loss. Because if you're still operating at a loss, all you're doing is kicking the can down the road to have the same problem later on. That's what I think.
Continue taking up votes on amendments. This bill, in its current state, is already ticking off a lot of people in the House. So it's not just a problem in the Senate right now. It's going to be a problem in the House if it gets through today, because the House Freedom Caucus says that the Senate's version is adding $651 billion to the deficit. Remember, though, the deficit only looks bigger.
Well, that's going to hold us over for, like, what, a week?
Without the bill, because of the massive tax hike that's baked into current law, that's going to expire at the end of the year. There is also that provision to remove illegal immigrants from Medicaid.
What is this, illegal?
Failed twice last night, you guys. So that is not in this anymore, and that's going to take off a lot of House Republicans as well. They're still waiting on to take a vote on Senator Rick Scott's FMAP bill that would basically force states to pick up more of the cost of Medicaid, share that cost.
People
with
love
the federal
giving away
government.
our money. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck.
Some color from the Senate floor. It's not good. People are exhausted. Try staying awake for 24 hours. Senator Tuberville was apparently walking around telling reporters...
needed 60 votes. As I crucify him, I think that, again, the senators and the states that are trying to allocate money to illegals, I don't think you can do all of them at the same time, but I think the best way to do it is to do it to the states that are either the most or the least powerful, totally cut all of their federal funding, totally destroy their fucking state, and make it to where they have to come to the table and they have to completely capitulate and totally surrender. That's what I think that they should do. And Trump has the opportunity to do that right now, and I think he also has the political capital to do it. If he did that, I would be so happy. I would be tremendously happy. And if they complain about it or they say we're not going to do that, well, then just say it's an insurrection and arrest them. Rein them in, put citizens' lives at stake? Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And it would put a lot of people's lives at stake. But I think that the risks there and the people who's putting their lives at stake really are the state government who refuse to use state funds for the people who are paying taxes. So really, is it the federal government's problem? And is it the federal government's responsibility to do that? Dumbest idea? It's not. Everybody says it's a dumb idea, but nobody says why. Because it might have collateral damage. Well, we have collateral damage right now. How does that make any sense? So, you have to worry about this because it might negatively affect people. Well, people are being negatively affected right now. Illegal immigrants pay taxes? Who cares? They shouldn't be getting benefits. This should be considered fraud? Yeah. Where's your humanity, man? My humanity rests with the people inside of the country that are paying taxes and then having their money reallocated away from them. That's where my humanity is. I don't give a fuck about the illegals. They shouldn't even be here. They should be lucky they're even here in the first place.
That he was brain dead. Senator Grassley, Chuck Grassley, was at one point, I was told, sitting on the floor, the same place where you see Senate pages
taxpayers
sitting.
First, exactly.
It's cold in there, and the reason it's cold is to try to keep.
Then neither should anyone who pays taxes. Hypocrite. No, that's just. What's your logic here? So can you explain this just real quick so I can listen to this? You just said they pay taxes, but also benefits should go to the taxpayer? Yeah, exactly, because they're citizens and the illegal immigrants aren't. The government should be operating in the best interest of its citizens rather than people that are illegally here and shouldn't be here and committed and broke the law in order to be here. Do you have a problem with that? Nobody's asking them to pay taxes or asking them to go home? Yeah, true. The primary problem of cutting out funding is the sheer number and variety of agreements involved between states and feds. Good. Then they should take that into consideration when they want to sacrifice everything in order to keep illegals on Medicaid. If it's that detrimental and that bad, then maybe they should just listen to the government and do what they say. See, from my perspective, I don't really care about creating negative outcomes or creating like collateral damage, because I think that being afraid of that is how you let people control you into doing things that are against your best interest. So you should never be afraid of creating collateral damage or having a negative effect on other people, because a lot of people try to use that advocacy in order to make you afraid of making things better. And also, they're the ones that are really doing it. Keeping illegals on Medicaid is a cheaper option because people getting sick randomly here, and then that creates even more problems for the state. That's the argument, most likely. Keeping illegals on Medicaid is not cheaper than deporting them. I can guarantee you.
People awake, people are uncomfortable. So let's see what this morning brings, and let's see if Vice President J.D. Vance can turn things around here for President Trump.
It's ridiculous.
Hey, Aisha, I'm wondering, is one of the promises possibly something they can do next, where you could say, hey, look, we can't do this now, but you have my word, we're going to go back because we have another opportunity to do reconciliation
what the fuck is that logic?
a little bit
I
later.
don't know.
And isn't there different things, for example, to get states to fund Medicaid? Aren't there different things to get to Alaska where we might be able to, she might have the freedom to supplement Medicaid?
People don't get the idea of cutting off an arm to save a life is better than taking a life. Yeah, this is what I said before, is that because a lot of people are so afraid of making a decision on metaphorical trolley problems in life, we have a lot of instances where both groups of people end up being damaged. And so when you don't have good leadership that has foresight and a degree of like principle behind it, you end up having these like piecemeal decisions being made that are reactionary and not really fully thought out. And that's really what the problem is. That's why this happens. It's because people are trying to look at things like that are directly in front of them without thinking about like what the long-term effect of something like that is. And Rosenbotting, no half measures? Yeah, no, definitely no half measures. Absolutely not. And I just want to let you guys see that like this is the mind of the people that the disagreeers are. You're a rich retard. Why the fuck would you care about Medicare or lower income taxes? I do. I just want them to go to citizens. Fight me. Do you like seeing die? Considering how you think about all the time, your channel would have all ads targeted at retarded racists. You dumb redneck. This is the mind of one of my disagreeers. What a retard.
It's such a rural area.
What an idiot.
And the reach is so hard from the medical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was that offer they made to not just Lisa Murkowski, but to really senators of a lot of rural states that were worried about this, including Josh Hawley of Missouri, was that $25 billion fund for hospitals, rural hospitals, that would help them kind of get through these cuts that were incoming. But the thing is, if you tell people that we'll do it later, people are looking at the way this is going now and the way the parliamentarian is ruling on these things now, and they're thinking to themselves, we're never going to get to this later. I mean, you know, you and I, everybody knows how Congress works and how hard it is to even get one reconciliation package through. You can do it 2 or 3 times, but it's very difficult. It's an uphill battle for both leaders in the House and Senate. So
I don't understand how these people can't realize the fact that all of these people are complaining about how difficult the system is. If this system that you're using is constantly creating outcomes that require these half measures being taken that are problematic and don't leave anyone satisfied, at what point do you ask yourself, maybe the system that's creating this problem is the problem and not necessarily the people themselves? The system is clearly fucked here, right? I mean, you need to change the system.
I think people are thinking the way that President Trump is thinking, let's get it all in at once and do it now. But at some point, I think the president and the vice president are going to have to say, look, this The time for negotiation has come to an end. We have gotten as much as we can done. This is it. There's a line here now, and you've got to vote with us.
And now they did.
Right. Thank you so much, Aisha.
I think a lot of people are agreeing with John Fetterman, what he said. He goes, I just want to go to the beach with my family. I already missed part of the vacation. I'm going to vote no. And I think it's the process. It's like something has to change in the process. We know
He's smart.
This side is going to vote yes, this side is going to vote no. Let's stop doing these last-minute posturing things.
Well, Senator Fetterman might give, I always thought he might be for this bill. So if he really wants to go to the beach, vote for the bill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go
do it right now. Go right to the beach. They'll provide a shuttle bus for you.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I understand. Gosh, it is. I don't know how these senators do it. Who would ever want to be a lawmaker when you have to be there 24/7 constantly and you can't ever get along and can't get anything done? But like Murkowski, she's worried about pleasing her constituents, and she represents them, so she doesn't want. She wants them to have the.
I'm sorry, I just don't get Murkowski. I mean, Susan Collins is one thing. She's in Maine. That's a difficult place to represent. Got a lot of bipartisanship there. But Donald Trump dominated Alaska. Those are his people that are there.
True.
The reason why she's so difficult every single time, I do not understand.
One of the reasons she keeps winning the primaries with ranked
Karens, bro.
Well, because they have the ranked choice voting.
Yeah. So and Trump always goes for her opponent.
Yeah. And Tom Tillis doesn't care because he's not running again.
Exactly. All right.
I feel like in general, like that's really the issue is that you have this system that's fucked up, and it's so fucked up it doesn't work at all, and that's the big problem. That is the issue more than anything else. What will happen to the agricultural industry if they mass deport illegals? I think it'll probably suffer a lot of short-term losses. It'll cause the prices of things to go up by a large amount. And then over time, people will be able to reacclimate to that by creating better technology and better systems that are able to do the work that the previous workers were able to do. That's obviously what's going to happen. And so, yeah, or robots. Yeah, exactly. You're going to have robots. Like there's already, like if you look at agricultural machines in action. So let me see if I can show some of this right here, okay? So this is 20 minutes. This is just like 1 year ago, right?
If agriculture used to be known as a labor-intensive job,
so you can see like all these machines that do this.
Machinery has become a farmer's best friend.
Look at this.
Thanks to technology development. Let's join WowTech to explore the exciting innovations in agriculture around the world. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button when you're ready for more. The seed harvest begins when the grass turns from green to brown or yellow. Then
deport the machines,
will be driven through the fields to
so this entire premise that the only way that we can ever make money or we can ever do anything is if we use this massive amount of illegal alien effective fucking second-class citizen labor.
Join
Look at
us
this.
on SmartTech as we explore
It's bullshit.
the world of modern agriculture's high efficiency
Look at that.
and precision in shredding. As a result,
Jesus.
the machine can now easily handle corn as well as any forage and energy crops,
Jesus.
providing farmers with increased productivity and reliable chopping capabilities.
Total bullshit? Yeah, it's bullshit. The main problem with these machines is there's really no right to repair, making it really expensive for farmers to fix their equipment. Okay, well, I guess based off of that, that means we should that means that we should import infinity illegals from third world countries to do it instead, rather than fix that problem.